I want to take some questions from you guys right now because I said I would, and then we're going to continue this the next 2 Tuesdays. We're going to pick up here. We've done a life audit. You've identified those toxic people. We've talked about a new image. We've talked about starting in your own life. We're going to pick up there next Tuesday, but I want to answer some questions now. And my producer, LaFern, is going to join and communicate some of your questions because I want to answer them. So, LaFern?
Thank you so much, Dr. Phil. I have never received so many questions from our fill in the blanks community. Here's some of them. Can a bipolar daughter and a borderline personality disorder mother ever be able to work out their relationship? And this is from Jenny.
Well, and that's a great question, Jenny. So thank you for asking that. First off, I need to identify that I am the incurable optimist. And you said bipolar daughter and borderline mother, correct?
Correct, yes.
And this is from the grandmother of the bipolar daughter. Okay. So she has a bipolar granddaughter and a borderline personality daughter.
Yes.
Okay. My answer is I can't think of a reason why they cannot have a good relationship. First off, bipolar, I would want to know if it's bipolar 1 or bipolar 2. Bipolar 1 has much more manic phases than bipolar 2, and it is the most disruptive of the two. Let's assume the worst. Let's assume that it's bipolar 1, and so she has sustained manic episodes. This is a disorder that is very manageable. This is one of those things that with psychopharmacology in combination with cognitive behavioral therapy is very manageable and does not have to be highly disruptive to someone's life if they manage it and they're compliant with the medical regimen. So that doesn't have to be a problem. And with a borderline personality mother, if in fact that is an accurate diagnosis, if that mother is willing to present herself for help and therapy, then by all means, she can work to manage and control that. And if she does that and gets some insight of her own, then they can certainly do some therapy together. There is a particular type of therapy called dialectical behavior therapy that can be very helpful with a borderline personality disorder, and it really can help. It's kind of a cognitive behavioral therapy with an added strong emphasis on change and acceptance, on balance change. And they identify and change negative internal dialogue, and they push for positive behavioral change. And one of the things that they really focus on is distress tolerance, because borderline personalities are very reactive and they tend to overreact and dramatize everything. And one of the things that DBT does is help people through mindfulness, which is a meditative type part of the therapy, help people to live in the moment, and they learn to observe and accept what's happening in the moment instead of judging and avoiding what's happening. It helps them control their reactivity and allows them to go further into their relationships. So this is an evidence-based therapy. And by evidence-based therapy, we mean that there is empirical evidence that demonstrates this therapy works. This was developed by Dr. Marsha Linehan, and she has done some fabulous research on this. So there's really great tools, clinical tools, to help with borderline personality disorder. And there is excellent help for bipolar disorder. So there's no reason in the world that these two cannot learn to have a great relationship between the two of them. Okay, next question.
In listening to the series, I'm wondering if anyone has any success in convincing someone with these disorders to get help. That's from Joe.
Well, I'll let people respond to that on the message boards, but let me say this. I'll share a strategy that I've had in convincing people to accept help. When you tell someone, even if you say it from a place of love, you need help, it tends to cause people to be defensive because there's just a judgmental element to you need help. What I do instead, and I've had great success with this, and it sounds like maybe just semantics, but I tell you it makes a huge difference, is to say to that person, you deserve to have some assistance with this. I see you experiencing pain sometimes. I see you going through a lot of conflict. I really love you and care about you, and I just think you deserve better. I think you deserve some help with this, and there's something out there that I think can be very useful, and I think you deserve to have it. When you tell somebody that they deserve something rather than need something, I think it really helps disarm them and bring down the barriers sometimes.
Absolutely. And he was talking about his son, so I think that will help definitely. We also have the 44-year-old mother of three. She hasn't spoken to her mother for over 4 years. She chose to cut her out of her life at this point, and she's a very toxic person, the very definition of communal narcissist. How can I deal with her and get along in this life with her?
Let me just say this. What upsets people in life is oftentimes not what actually happens. What upsets people is violation of your expectations. So if your expectation is that your mother behave a certain way and not behave a certain way, and then she violates that expectation, then you're going to be upset. Now, if you go into this where you don't have that expectation, where you say, okay, look, she has a problem with this. That's just who she is. And that's probably not going to change. And if it does, it's not going to be by me because this is above my pay grade. I'm willing to engage with her without judgment. I'm going to love the parts of her that I can because I'm going to realize I don't have to love everything she does in order to love her. So I don't have to love all of her behaviors in order to love her. And I'm not going to set up a false expectation that somehow since the last time I saw her, she miraculously cured herself from this communal narcissism. So I'm going to go in there. I'm not going to have that expectation. And I'm just going to love her, recognizing I don't have to love everything she does. So I'm going to leave my judgments at home. I'm just going to go over there and love that part of my mother that gave birth to me, that changed my diapers, that held me when I was sick, that fed me when I was hungry, that picked me up at school, that did all the things that she did that were sacrifices in her life at a different time. And maybe she wasn't perfect even at that, but she got me this far, and I'm going to love her for that. And maybe I can tell her she deserves some help and just not be quite as judgmental as you might otherwise be.
I love that. And from Bobby, she says, mother has a major borderline personality disorder and the beginning of Alzheimer's. And she said, Dr. Phil, I need your help with my mother. We don't know what to do with her. My stepfather just had a heart surgery and I'm trying to care for him, but she's extremely jealous of me. How do I get along with that?
First, thank you for your question. I think you have to put things in order. And if she is in the throes of Alzheimer's early stages, I would recommend that you get as much education as you can about her condition so you understand what her capabilities are, because there will be limitations and it is probably progressive. And you want to be sure that you're not asking her to do something or manage something that's just outside of her capabilities. On the other hand, you don't want to fail to require her to do 100% of everything she is capable of doing. So don't infantilize her by treating her in a way that doesn't require her to be all that she can be at whatever stage she is. But once you know that, once you know the parameters of her disease and where she is, and they've told you, okay, she does have the capacity to do A, B, and C, then recognize that this is a mental emotional disorder on her part, and be smart. Be smarter than she is at this point and say, okay, she does see me as a threat. That's built into her. I know that. It's a classic characteristic of the narcissistic disorder. She sees my success as being at her expense. So I'm going to do everything I can to share with her that we draw from different accounts. My success comes from the child account. Her success comes from the parent account, and we can both draw down those accounts without costing the other anything. Let her know how proud I am of her and how much I value her acceptance and pride in me. If she can ever get her mind around the fact that your success does not cost any withdrawals from her self-worth account, you just might turn a corner.
Oh, I love that. This is from someone that actually was diagnosed with borderline personality disorder since he was 7. How can I control this situation and my explosive anger? And this is from Stake.
Thank you for the question. And I am so proud of the fact that you have enough insight to be asking the question, because it tells me that you recognize, A, that you have borderline personality, if in fact you do, and that you have explosive anger rather than blaming the world, which means you're owning the fact that the anger is yours and that's explosive. There are 4 subtypes. These are not in the DSM. They're just kind of recognized by those that work with this a lot. There is a subtype that is generally referred to as petulant, and it expresses itself through anger and an unworthy feeling. Those 2 things are real key. I would ask you to really focus on how you feel about yourself. You are never weaker than when you're angry. Because think about it. You're angry because you feel victimized. There's no other reason to be angry than seeing that the world has victimized you in some way. So ask yourself not what you can do with your anger, what you can do with your feelings of worth and strength. Because the more worthy you feel and the stronger you feel, the less likely you are to default to your anger. So really work on your feelings of self-worth. I'd start by itemizing the things that you're most proud of, the things that you think are best about you, personality-wise, intellectually, relationally, achievement-wise. Let's focus on who you are and why you are a good human being. And I think you might feel victimized a whole lot less.